Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Quarantine Concert Series. I'm your host, Kabir Sehgal, and we are here with you every single night at 10 p.m. Eastern without fail. You can count on taxes. Well, unfortunately, a lot of illness these days in this show. That's the consistency. Every single night, we're trying to be with you. And thank you so much for sharing. 3 points. I want to tell you what we're doing. I want to tell you where you can find us. And I want to tell you how to get on the show. Number one, what are we doing? We're going through a period of national and international emergency. Just today, the Surgeon General said that this week is going to be our Pearl Harbor. It's going to be our 9/11 moment. So this is an incredible crisis that we're going through. And big shout out to all the healthcare providers and doctors who are helping us get through this crisis. I also want to, share that so many of artists and music professionals, creative professionals have had their way of life severely impacted because all the gigs have been canceled and all the producers and engineers and live bookers and promoters, their whole way of life is kind of not the way of life they want right now because all these gigs have been canceled. So this concert series puts the spotlight back on the musicians, back on the people who make the music happen, and they're there for us throughout the year, providing us incredible artistry and entertainment. I think this is the least we can do to shine the light back on them and keep the gigs rolling as much as we can. So that's what the show is about. We're on again 10 p.m. Eastern. Where are we broadcasting? The short answer is everywhere. We're on Facebook. We're on the Twitters. We're on the Instagram cracker. And we're on the LinkedIn for all you business professionals and associate vice presidents out there and senior vice presidents out there and marketing directors and associate marketing directors and vice presidents and CEOs and software engineers. You can see us on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So subscribe to all these things so you get notified about all these concerts. We want you to be in the loop because we have some very exciting artists who are going to be joining us the next few days, next few weeks. And I want you to be the first to know. And then lastly, see all these great artists? Lastly, there's Tania's website. Yeah, lastly, we have a way to get on the show. I've heard from a lot of you, how do you get booked on the show? The best way to do it is hit me up on Facebook or Instagram. And we do have a waiting list of over 40 artists, so we're trying to get through, slowly but surely. But I do read all the requests. I do have a Excel spreadsheet where I'm trying to manage all these things. So I'm trying to do this in a systematic way and try to be fair. But thanks for your patience. And on the viewership side, we've been very heartened to our sponsors in particular and to our partners, LinkedIn and Facebook, for partnering with us on these broadcasts. We're seeing just great numbers across the board, 40,000, 50,000 views, even one exceeding 100,000 views. So who would have thought? Thanks so much. I'm broadcasting live from the dining room table of my parents, and they're sleeping upstairs. So it's really thankful for them for providing a shelter, and especially providing a shelter during this week because this is going to be a tough week from all accounts. So with that, I love putting on this broadcast for a couple reasons. I get to see great art and get to share with you great art, but I also get to check in with some of my friends. And I've known this incredible artist. She's a friend for many years now. When I first heard her play, I was deeply impressed. I'm more of a jazz musician or a jazz producer, and so when I see someone who's creating music at the highest levels in another genre, I just get so inspired and so motivated. And with that, I want you to welcome to the show an incredible artist, an incredible artist, virtuosic thinker as well. She's creating music in many genres, and we're going to talk about that. Please welcome to the show, Tania Stavreva.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Welcome to my living room at home.
It looks very clean. Have you been
Thank you.
cleaning up inside?
I don't know about clean, but I can do better. Thank you.
Awesome. Tell me first how the pandemic is affecting you, and have you had to cancel many gigs? How has it impacted your professional life?
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, it's probably you've heard this already from so many other colleagues. All concerts, I had two Carnegie Hall concerts I've been looking forward to. The first one was on March 23rd, and the second one was on April 22nd, and they've both been cancelled. A lot of other performances and travels, as well as my teaching. Currently, no students are allowed to come to my studio because there is a ban on all non-essential music businesses. So it's certainly a difficult time for many musicians.
Have you been rebooking gigs? Has that happened yet? Or are we still kind of in the wait and see?
The April 22nd Carnegie Hall show was moved to April 7, 2021. The March show is still in process. I believe the organizer is planning on booking it in August, but I think he's kind of waiting on seeing how things are, because we still don't know how long this will take for everything to recover. And I do have concerts coming up in very late May and June that they have not been canceled, but we don't know again. If,
Yeah. And you're a teacher too. You teach musicians, right? Teach piano students. How's that gone? Are you teaching virtually?
Two of my students actually have been also piano teachers, so I work with beginners as well as advanced. I mean, the main thing between student and teacher is the right chemistry. So for me, no levels really are a problem, as well as I'm the right teacher for my students. I've started working with some of my students online, and some of them were not kind of open to that idea because, of course, in-person instruction, there's something about it that you could never have online. And other students were let go from their work, so they actually have no income at the moment. So it's not just musicians, but other areas and businesses. And at the moment, I'm looking for more students because my concerts are canceled. I normally have a long waiting list. So if somebody's listening and wants piano lessons, they could take lessons with me online. And that's something kind of fun. That's the reason I have this microphone, by the way. Because you want the lesson?
You have two volunteers. What do I
You
do?
want
I
the
just go like
lesson?
this.
Okay, you so so yes, I've been trying to get some sort of equipment appropriate from that. I've been listening also to a lot of tutorials, but it's so interesting. Some of my colleagues who only teach online, they have not been affected at the moment because that's how they run
Yeah.
their teaching business. And to me, it's surprising how well it works. Of course, there are things in person that they could project better, but so far, I want to make sure that those lessons really work, and my students have been pleased. I mean, for somebody who invested more than 1 year or even 6 months investing into regular piano lessons, stopping is just not good, because when you come back to it, you're not going to just come back from where you left off. You come back way more behind, and that's what you invested. It doesn't really make sense. So for a lot of my students who are very serious, they actually understand that they need to continue.
Yeah.
Even if it's not ideal, the online for them, they know how important it is for them to continue.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, one of the best ways to learn about Tania and her and why you should take lessons from her is to hear her play music, because I think when you hear her play, you're just like, okay, that sounds amazing. Where do I begin? So what would you like to begin your performance with tonight?
Yes, I would like to start with two original compositions. The first one is called Rhythmic Movement and is the first track of my album, also titled Rhythmic Movement. And then I will play another original composition called Left Hand Path, and it's only for the left hand. So because both of them are so short, each one is about 1.5 minutes, I will kind of link them together, and I will go into the second one right away. So is it okay to take off my headphones when I play? Because with these cables,
It's your place.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Hello, hello. Oh, thank you.
that was
Thank you
so
so
good.
much. Thank you so much.
I was like trying to watch and catch up with your hands there.
I
Tell me
decided to
about.
start with more louder stuff now because it's past 10 p.m. and in case my neighbors, because now I feel like everybody goes to bed earlier.
Yeah.
So there's another set of a bunch of louder stuff, and then after that it will be very intimate.
Ooh. All
I
right. I need to get the candles out and stuff. We can start dimming the lights. Actually, I might do that. We'll go to a darker set after this. Hey,
I don't
tell
know
me
about
about.
my lights though.
Yeah. Tell me about writing that song because when people watch and they're unfamiliar with classical composition, a lot of people when they think about songwriting, they think about writing like a song for guitar, like the AABA form, and obviously it's different for jazz. But I want people to get a sense of classical composition. So when you wrote that piece, how did you think about sort of the structure of it? Like, is there like a melody, a variation of melody? How do you think about it?
Oh boy, I kind of went with the flow. I wasn't really thinking much about it. Kind of go with my, um, kind of waiting for the moment to come, the inspiration, and uh, I, in general, as a composer, have been very modest because all of my life I've been a performer. And in the classical world, when you study in a professional music school institution, you have a certain major. I majored in piano performance, so composers major in composition, while a lot of classical composers are, it's kind of mandatory to learn how to play the piano. They don't play the piano as pianists traditionally. So composers usually compose music and have musicians perform their music, and performance only play music by composers. So it's changing. Lately, I've seen more and more colleagues changing that, but traditionally, it's not so common for a concert pianist to be composing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that's something I actually first did in 2012 because I was working with a theater company and the director was doing an adaptation of Shakespeare's The Tempest. So he had the idea of a modern adaptation blended with modern classical music. And some of the pieces worked fantastic with the rhythms of the monologues because Shakespeare's language is like music itself. And some of the monologues didn't work out because he wanted me to speed up or change the ending. And I said, no, if I'm playing music by this composer, I can change the ending because you have to wait until the end because that's how the composer wrote it. And that's that's like a crime, committing a crime, you know. So I can't do that. But then I figured out if I compose the music myself based on what kind of music he's looking for the characters, it worked out much easier. So that's actually how I started getting into composing more because before
Mm-hmm.
I would just be learning more pieces for competitions, auditions, and other things I was doing as a student. And then after that, a lot of people liked the rhythmic movement. Rhythmic movement was originally the theme for Caliban. It was a
Mm-hmm.
lot slower and angrier, like yeah, it was actually every time Caliban went on stage, I would have to play that. But then I said, you know what? I could just speed it up a little, make it like a dance because in my home country, Bulgaria, 7/8 is a typical traditional dance of a dance called Rachenica. So
Mm-hmm.
1 to 1 to 1 to 3, 1 to 1 to 1 to 3 is a very much of the kind of music from home.
Yeah.
So I just thought that I would do that, and then I got inspired to compose more. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so far my compositions are shorter. I would say before I compose something, I do like to have in mind how long that should be. I do like to have in mind the different themes that blend, how they will repeat, or if I go somewhere outside of the theme, how far I go.
Yeah.
And myself, I've been having interest in jazz, but I just haven't had the time. But sometimes I feel like, okay, this is my theme, and now I'm sort of kind of going into kind of like an improvisation, and I'm coming back to the theme.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I could see a little bit more clearly that, and it's fun. It's definitely fun. But so far, I'm really a performer, and I'm not very patient. If I'm composing, I just can't wait until this is done so I can play it. And I know some
Yeah.
of my friends, composers with a doctoral degree in classical composition, they work on an opera for 6 months or 1 year,
Yeah,
or
totally.
or a symphony, and
It's a
I don't.
process. You
Yes,
know
so
the rhythm you were saying, the 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. What is that?
that's 7/8.
So yeah, well, but is that because when I hear that I think about the Dave Brubeck recordings of like Blue Rondo a la Turk, one two
I
one two
mean,
one two one two three 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, like there's a lot of some jazz musicians have taken music from Eastern Europe and brought it into
yes.
jazz, and it creates this great vibe essentially. Are you familiar with this?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
those rhythms are now being. It's so interesting because sometimes certain critics try to label me a specialist in more of Bulgarian music, and how to say. I mean, the Wonder Woman soundtrack is in the same rhythm, and
yeah,
nobody labeled Hans Zimmer as influence of Bulgarian rhythms. Really,
yeah.
it's like his original sort of. So it's now lately used in a lot of popular music, such as film music, such also in jazz, and I think that's what's fantastic with all these genres being.
Totally.
Influencing each other, and I mean so much modern classical music is jazzy. I
Yeah,
mean
true.
there's so much connection.
What would you like to play next?
I will play a set of pieces by Alberto Ginastera. So I will start with American Prelude Number 6. Then after that I will perform a piece called Bulgarian Prelude that I composed, but it's tribute to Ginastera, and it sounds very much like the American Prelude Number 6. And then after that I will perform Druvido Edo Sinato, also by Ginastera. And all of those are about maybe 5-6 minutes long. So I will just go into all of them because the first one is less than a minute, the second one is about a minute and a half, the third one is about 3.5 minutes maybe. So I'll just link them all together on the.
Sounds good.
Let me just adjust one thing that fell off here. By the way, my piano, it's about the time to tune it. And I can't believe it did that during my performance. I had a little mistake because it fell off. My uncle. This is really a new experience for me. I've never done this. The beer making me blush.
Yeah, you have
Okay.
don't you bow? You have to bow, right?
Okay. In my pajamas.
Yeah. Yeah. One more.
Thank you.
I've trained my audience very well. That was wonderful. I'm trying to make you feel. Look at the love you're getting. You're getting some. Loved it. We got some. Stephen Buckner says, "Tanya, you're amazing."
I had a little mistake.
Sounds
This thing
great.
on my piano fell
We didn't hear.
off.
There was a lag in the internet connection, so we
I'm
didn't
so
hear
classical.
the mistake.
Like,
It was
but
good.
it's so funny. I've played this at so many concerts, and I was like,
Awesome,
"This is my
Tanya.
home." And then, so I apologize for my piano being slightly out of tune, and
No,
my
we don't hear
pedals
it.
there.
We
Some
don't hear it.
issues
We
here.
just blame it on Facebook. Blame it on Facebook.
But
They,
we can't ask the tuner at home because non-essential businesses are closed. So
Yes.
even if I wanted to prepare, sound-wise better,
Yes.
I can't because nobody was supposed to practice social distancing. And
That's right. I have a
And,
question
yeah.
for you. We had a pianist earlier today, and I asked the same question. I want to ask you, what do you keep in your piano bench?
oh boy, there's so many books here. You don't want to even
Just
know.
show and
These
tell.
things are
Show and
things-
tell.
No, I'm not opening that piano page. How do you know that this piano page opens?
It's in a box of secrets.
Some of them don't.
For those of you
open.
watching at home, that's the one thing she won't share. It's what's in the piano bench. Is there food in there?
Definitely not.
Is there Purell in there?
Purell is right near my drinking cup.
You know what I
That's
recommend
okay.
is taking some Purell,
Oh, that's a big one. Where did you get it?
mixing it
hard
in
to
the
find.
drink, shaking.
So it hand sanitizes everything.
I don't recommend that, but it's don't try
Hey,
that
did
at
you
home.
really put-
I mean,
did you really put
if you're
it-
gonna do it, you should be at home, but don't try that at home. But yes, Purell, I
You really
recommend
put it
it.
in a drink?
No, I mean only if you're into it. I just sort of bathe in it now.
I guess that's another form of alcohol. Because it has alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. Wakes you up. That was brilliant. Hey, tell me, when did you first know you wanted to become a pianist? What was like the moment you're like, that's what I'm gonna do?
Well, that's so interesting. I've never actually had this question myself. The thing is that thanks to my family and my parents, that they put me into music at an early age. Music has been part of my life, and I've been at the music school since such a young age, and that required a lot of concerts and performances, master classes, and I just growing up, just being born and just living, I just remember just being part of my life, and there was just no way to think about ever doing something else. I would say I did have in high school interest in acting, but at the end of the day, all the arts come to the same thing in terms of how you deliver the message. And to me, music is just my mother language, how I express myself. I mean, especially with classical music, when you work on different composers' works, it's really you're really into a character and you're saying a story and you're expressing yourself in music and the plot. so,
Yeah.
so I've never really had any other destiny. I feel other than that, and it's never been a question. And it's not an easy path being a musician, I would say. And for me, it was always a way to like figuring it out how it works, especially with streaming and
Yeah.
other things outside of the pandemic.
A question on Instagram is, what is something you wish you knew now that you wish you had known, that you know now that you wish you had known when you were beginning your career?
Oh boy, I definitely wish I knew that practicing only was not enough, because we grew up, classical musicians kind of grew up in isolation in a way. In the past few years, I've been so social, and that's kind of the time when my career started going more, just more people knowing about me. And by the way, staying home, it's not that much of a problem in terms of you could practice because you're so used to being in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
so that's
so
kind
you
of
were
an
under
interesting.
house arrest growing up, essentially practicing.
I mean, obviously, as a student, I had to do a lot more of it. Lately, I've
Yeah.
been feeling guilty. I haven't done enough because just other things, and just I kind of feel very behind on certain pieces, and I always want to push myself to memorize more and learn more. And I always feel like I'm not doing enough. but yes, overall, I find that in making careers, it's so important to uh, participate in a social network of other musicians. I think networking is so essential. Just other people and colleagues knowing your work, whether that's composers, conductors, or producers, or I find this so essential because if you're just practicing, nobody really knows outside of your family and very close friends about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what else. I mean, I'm sure that's it's so funny. Sometimes I ask myself, why didn't I know about this earlier? Recording an album. I mean, most colleagues of mine, if I look back, they kind of started recording their first albums a lot later. So now, I would say now that certain artists are making their albums in the 20s, that's considered a little bit of a progress.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I wish I knew that I could record an album even as a student, but nobody would recommend that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the schools would always recommend just the old methods of practice, practice, practice.
Do
And
you
even
recommend
getting,
that to your students to record an album? Have you recommended that?
well, it depends if they're trying to pursue careers and if they're ready for it, obviously. Why not? Certainly. But practice, practice, practice is not enough even to get to Carnegie Hall. You know that joke with practice, practice,
Yeah.
practice. It's a lot more than that. I find in nowadays the music
Yeah.
business. I would say self promotion is something so important, and it's kind of looked a little negative if an artist is doing that, particularly in the classical world. And I wish I knew earlier that
Why is that?
self-promotion.
Is it because it's like too stodgy or something? Why is that? Because in some
I don't
art forms,
know.
it comes with the territory, right?
I know with some other forms. I remember being a student in the U.S. after I graduated from Bulgaria. I had these friends from Berklee College of Music. They would play jazz and rock and other genres, and they would talk about their shows 3, 4, 5, or 6 months before the show. And when my senior recital comes, I was like, okay, I'll put posters 3 days before the concert so nobody knows or nobody comes. And it's so funny because so it's very different kind of world, and the thinking is different. So I hope it's changing. I don't know,
Well, I think you're a
but
pioneer. You're a trailblazer in this, and it's really important that people who are in this space. I work with a lot of jazz musicians who, and that music has had its own kind of reservations about promotion too. But it's important for the music to get out there, and you have if someone else isn't gonna, you got to put your music out there and put it out so people can discover you. And that's how I discovered you, and I've really become a fan of yours because I knew about it. And so it's a philosophical conversation, but I'm glad you sort of you're recommending this for people, especially to some of your students maybe who like it's important to practice, but it's also important to like connect with people and share the
yes.
music as much as possible.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think this is essential. And now the social media is changing. I would say I used to have a great exposure on YouTube and Facebook, and now it's all becoming more like a field for advertising, because before they were not doing that. And I find that if you don't have a sponsored post, a lot less people will see it compared to
it's true. It's true.
Paid those platforms.
Tell me about someone was asking also on IG, what is a venue that you wish you've played so many different places, so what's the venue that you wish you could play one day that you have not yet?
Madison Square Garden, because I don't know if a classical artist ever made it there as a soloist.
Right.
Madison Square Garden would be, I would play that with the bass drums and the piano at the same.
Yeah, well, they're open right now. I think their calendar is free. So.
Well, I don't know about anybody allowing me outside, or I probably don't want to go outside right now.
Probably not. Yes. Yeah, you gotta take this with you.
Yes. So I would say that for me, this for me is so new and it really feels like a performance, actually. It's interesting.
Well, it is.
It's my living room where every day.
We have people tuning in from Australia watching you.
That's amazing.
And Japan and Thailand.
That's amazing.
And India.
And they could take piano lessons from there also.
Yes. So if you're watching, yes. Also, where do we find you online? What's your website? Let's put it up there. So
my website is taniastavreva.com, and they could send a message through the contact form there, as well as on Skype. My Skype ID is Tania Piano, and I'm also on Instagram. They have to request me. Currently, my Instagram, Twitter, those are private.
Okay.
I have a YouTube account.
See, it's
my
not
Facebook
just
is public.
It's not just your piano. It's not just your piano bench that's private. You keep your social media. I sense a theme here, which is cool.
I find that you would get more followers if you don't run sponsored ads by being private, because in order to see something, they have to request. They have to follow you in order to see something.
Yeah.
So if it's just available, they might not follow you. So.
Totally. Well, this is good. This is one of the first times we talked about the promotion aspect of it. But yeah, so check out, if you're watching at home, check out her website, taniastavreva.com. Check her out on, all the streaming platforms, and, buy her music, stream it, subscribe to her. It's important to support live artists, and especially genius composers and performers like Tania. So what would you like to play next for us?
Next, I would like to, let me actually look at my set list quickly, because I just decided the set today. I think I'm going to play the last loud piece. It's very short. It's because it's already like 10:30, so I'm the neighbors. That is Modijet number 5 by Bulgarian composer Dubrinka Tabakova, and then I will play her Nocturne, and the Nocturne will be the transition into the gentle section. So I would play those one after another, one loud and one gentle, and both of these pieces show a very different side of the composer. One with Bulgarian rhythms of 7/8, and then another one in normal time signature, as well as more lyrical and gentler.
Nice.
the pedal, the squeaky pedal sounded so funny. Thank you. I'm supposed to take a bow. Thank you. Thank you.
Brava.
Thank
Brava.
you so much.
Encore. Encore. Encore.
Should we go into the next straight?
Yes.
The next set. Next, I've decided to play Eric Satie. So
Can't hear you. You're clapping too loud.
Next,
Can't hear you.
next, I would like to
Settle
play.
down. Settle down. We really have to settle down. She has to perform. No, please. Please settle down. They can't get enough. If you keep clapping, you can't hear her play again. All right. Please. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, they're back.
Oops.
Okay.
So next, I will perform for you a piece by Eric Satie, and it's my favorite Eric Satie piece. It's Nocien number 4, and then immediately after that, I will play a piece by American composer, and that piece is called Gymnopédie number 1, and the name of that composer is Steve Hoge. I would say probably 3-4 minutes, maybe 4, just to keep it safer. So far, you heard music performed by me, and then Argentinian composer Alberto Ginastera, Bulgarian composer based in the UK, Dobrinka Tapakova, now American composer, and before that, French composer. So it's very diverse, the program. Thank you so much. So that was part of the intimate section of the concert.
Oh, yes. We've got the mood lighting going over here. Turn down the lights a little bit.
I wish I could do that with my.
I'm trying to match the vibe.
So, yes.
This is the
Yes,
after hour. This is, it's almost 11 p.m.
Oh, yes,
on the
that's
East Coast.
true.
It's the after hour set.
Well,
That
I
was really
definitely
beautiful.
want to have time to play the Andras. I have to ask him to pronounce his last name for me. I would say Deretsky.
Deretsky.
Andras Deretsky's piece, Liebesdrama, because this piece was actually written for a lost love. And I remember dedicating that piece back in, it was at several concerts, but one of them was definitely in Bulgaria, to my mother and to another wonderful friend and great woman, Nadia Jaffrey. They both lost their husbands. I mean, my mother lost my dad, and Nadia lost her husband, who was a dear friend. And it just, for me, especially combining that piece together with A Gift of Light, my original composition, I just feel that no matter how difficult things are, we should always look for the positive. We should always look for the light. And I just feel like now, in this particular time where we are at what we're going through, the pandemic and all these difficulties and so many lost lives all over the world, I feel that we have to look for the light no matter what. And I feel that I'd like to make sure on this streaming there is time for Andras Deretsky.
Of course.
Well as,
Before you play that, I want to ask you a couple of
Sure,
questions. Some
of
questions
course,
coming
yes.
in. What kind of piano are you playing?
Oh boy, that's called the Kranich and Bach, and it's a New York company that no longer exists and no longer makes pianos. That piano was given to me. I'm very fortunate, and it's ivory keys. It's real ivories. That's what I have. I used to have a small spinet when I first moved to New York, which was like a toy to me. But I used to practice at Juilliard School back then on the grand pianos, but I still needed something at home. So, but this so far works well. It has a hard action. It's not the most ideal piano for me. If anybody is donating a Steinway, I'll gladly take it. I would say if it's a concert Steinway, might be a little hard for a New York Manhattan apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, I'm very fortunate to have this. It's serving me a great deal, and I find that also when I play on a fancy piano at a concert hall, working on something challenging makes it so much more comfortable. Versus if I had the most perfect piano in the world, I would probably be too spoiled.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that even a lot of colleagues and teachers and professional pianists, they make their pianos purposefully harder action, means that you need to work a lot harder to get big sound, because when you're on a big 9-foot piano at the concert hall, then you don't have to work harder, because obviously if you play on a smaller piano, you don't need so much power. But if
Sure.
you play on a bigger piano, it's like a workout. You need to
Sure.
practice practice muscle.
Yeah. Well, before we go into your last piece, I do want to put up on screen your album that did phenomenally well. It charted on Billboard, Rhythmic Movement, and there it is. It's actually, it doesn't come with the frames, unfortunately. I have some tech
That's
issues,
okay. That's okay.
but it was an incredible project. And were you happy with the response, with the critical response to it?
Oh boy, I myself never expected such success in my I haven't even imagined all of this amazing success would happen, because this is also my debut album, the first time I actually released a record with my amazing producer Ron St. Germain, who produced and recorded and engineered, and yeah, it got Billboard Top 10 and
all those laurels. Why don't we show so many of the awards and the laurels that you received, and rightly so. Not for that one, but all the laurels and the medals that you received. There you go.
Thank you.
So that's like you're rivaling Julius Caesar with all those wreaths in your head.
Yeah, that was so. It was really an honor. That was very unexpected. And how many was it? 19, I think so far. Yes, we got an award a few months ago. Another one for, I don't know if I put it on my website yet. For the best, I believe, new artist they gave me, the Clusin. So that was exciting, and also a lot of great press from the critics. And I was at first kind of, I don't want to say nervous, but for me, this project, just knowing so many musicians from other genres, really opened up my mind, because this album is very different than a lot of classical albums. It does not follow the typical programming in terms of how most albums are. But I really felt going with my heart in terms of the rhythms, how they build up into a culmination. And I liked also the idea of diversity in terms of putting composers from different nationalities.
Yeah.
I did feel a little guilty about playing only the last movement of the Hinastara Sonata instead of the full sonata, which is how traditional programming on a project will be. But rhythmically, it makes sense how it builds up the rhythmic drive. So I felt like I maybe might be excused with that. Uh, but traditionally, that's not how most classical programs are. I just feel like in terms of building that rhythmic energy, I could allow myself to work around the rules. I would say that normally, even though I do things out of the box, I'm quite traditional, and if I do something different, it needs to really make sense to me why. It needs to really come from my heart. And I felt like with this album, I was even taking a risk because I also had a drummer on the last track that we distorted part of the piano that was considered a little provocative for a classical album.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved that collaboration so much, and I love that idea of, I just feel like piano and drums are such a great fit together, and
Sure.
there's not that much that has been
Rhythm
done.
section, totally.
Yeah, certainly. And I did sing the main theme on the Diumano Diubero. Diumano Diubero is a famous Bulgarian song that I will not play tonight because then we'll have to go until midnight.
What are you going to play for us last?
It's gonna be last. Okay, so I'll definitely want to play Andres' piece because I want to dedicate this also to anybody who lost somebody very close that they loved. But I also want to dedicate my piece, A Gift of Light, that's coming immediately after Andres' piece, that I want to dedicate that for all people to always look for the light. And it's a gift of light because these people will lose, they want the best for us. They don't want to see us struggle or suffer or be in pain. And I feel we owe it to them in general. So I think that's definitely a message I'd like to bring to people.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Hello, hello.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for being on the broadcast. We really appreciate it. Wish everyone a great evening after that beautiful music. You made our evening so much better and so much brighter. Check out Tania online. Thank you for being with us, Tania.
Thank you so much, Kabir. You
Yeah,
have a great night.
quick shout out to the great audio and tech people. Check out their website. Camilo and Sandra, they're very, very awesome people. That's their website. And they're available for all mixing and mastering audio services. Have a good night. God bless. See everyone here back tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern every night. Happy, 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 happy times. It's going to be a tough week. Take care.